So good morning. Today I'm going to read you one of my favorite stories. It's called Christmas Trolls. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Mrs. Campbell and I teach grade 1-2 at Eric Harvie. So this story is written by Jan Brett, and Jan Brett is well known for drawing lots and lots of little details in her pictures and the borders. So if you ever get a chance to take out one of her books, I want you to look for that. And there'll be some secret little pictures in this story as well. And this story was one of my kids' favorites, and it still is, so I'd like to share it with you today. Christmas Trolls. I'm Treva, and the day my brother Sammy and I went to our neighbor's farm to pick out a Christmas tree was the beginning of the most unforgettable Christmas I've ever had. As we went home through the forest, with a perfect tree packed on the sleigh, Toofy started sniffing and barking. I couldn't see anything, but I felt sure someone was watching us. When we had arrived home, we forgot all about the forest. Mom and Dad had brought out our boxes of ornaments to decorate the tree. Sammy and I put evergreen wreaths, mistletoe, and holly all around the house. We had already wrapped our presents and hidden them away for Christmas morning. Maybe some of you spent some time decorating your house or your tree recently. And look, we have some little people here in the border of the picture. Then, some of our Christmas decorations started to disappear. I didn't notice until Dad asked if we had moved the trinket box he had hidden for Mum. I shivered because Mum had just asked me the same thing about the mittens she had knitted for Dad. Sammy and I looked in all the usual hiding places, but we couldn't find them. Toofy was acting strange too. He sniffed and barked and ran around in circles as if he were looking for something. If you look closely here, you can see some mittens on a little hedgehog. Maybe those are Dad's mittens. Then, a few days before Christmas, the treetop angel was gone. What would be next? I started carrying my favorite red horse everywhere. Early the next morning, when I went to feed Arnie, I saw something flying across the snow. It was our Christmas pudding. And that means like a cake. Look, where is that cake? I harnessed Arnie, bells and all, and raced after it into the forest. As I got closer, I could see that our pudding was being carried along, pin-cushioned to the top of a hedgehog. I didn't know what to do, so I yelled, "Stop, come back." But it didn't stop until it reached the bottom of 4 fir trees. The hedgehog put the pudding down and scampered off. Just then, the trees started rocking back and forth. Suddenly, a funny-looking ladder dropped down from above, and 2 trolls scurried down, pouncing on the pudding before I could even move. They pulled it back and forth as they went up the ladder, squabbling all the way to the top. I climbed right up after them and looked inside. There on the floor of their troll house were all of our Christmas things in a heap. The trolls were grabbing at them, each one wanting what the other one had. "Hey, trolls," I called, "those are our Christmas things." The trolls dove into the pile, clutching our gifts. "Mine," they clamored, "mine." I looked at them and I had to smile. Their shirt tails were hanging out, their pants were torn and patched, their cheeks were bright red, and their hair was standing up from all the pulling and tugging at each other. "Christmas," they wailed. "We want Christmas." "You want Christmas?" I asked, puzzled. "Yes," they shouted. "Give us Christmas." "Well, you can't just take Christmas," I said. The trolls looked surprised. They squeaked, they gulped, they shuffled their feet. "Want Christmas," they said, sounding miserable. "Okay, you can have Christmas, but first, what are your names?" "Meg," said one. "Tig," said the other. I looked around at their messy hut. "Meg, Tig, let's begin by getting your house ready for Christmas." I started to straighten up and put things away. They began to help. "Nice," I said when we had finished. "Now let's make your house look like Christmas." We went outside and gathered evergreens, berries, and pine cones. "Now we need a Christmas tree," I told them. "That's easy. You live in the trees, so you can have 4 trees instead of just 1 if you want to." "Christmas trees!" they shouted, jumping up and down, and we decorated each of the trees that held up the troll house. I don't know where that little hedgehog is going. He's got all those things again. Tig and Meg had a small setback on the way back to the hut. I knew I had some more explaining to do. "When I first got here, you were snatching things for yourselves and acting really grumpy. Try playing together and having some fun." "Fun?" they asked. I showed them how to jump rope. I told them how much I liked their tail knots and earrings. They smiled shyly and started tucking in their shirt tails. "Nice hair, pretty belt," they said, grinning at me, and they taught me a little troll dance. They were catching on. Now, if you really want Christmas, you must be generous with each other. If you do that, you will have Christmas right here in your troll house. The trolls cocked their heads and squinted. They were trying hard to understand. "How?" they pleaded. I felt my red horse in my pocket. I knew I had to show them, so I took it out and gave it to them. "This is for you." The trolls squealed and jumped up and down with glee. They took turns passing my horse back and forth, happily playing with it together. It was time for me to go home. I slipped out quietly and climbed down to Arnie. To my surprise, their hedgehog had packed all of our presents on the sleigh for me to take home while we were having Christmas in the troll house. So there is all of their things that the trolls had taken. On Christmas morning, Sammy and I ran downstairs to find the tree alight with candles and our stockings filled. We opened our presents in front of the fire. But this Christmas was full of surprises. I heard a bumping and a scratching noise, and Toofy barked. I listened and followed the sounds. Outside on the doorstep was a Christmas present. Let's see what it could be. Wow, look at that. I unwrapped it and found a wild and wonderful troll horse. "Tig and Meg," I exclaimed. When I held it, I knew for sure that the trolls understood Christmas, and I knew that this was the best Christmas ever. So I hope you enjoyed that story, and I hope you spread lots of love and generosity this season. Take care, everyone.